Hello, class. Today we are going to be talking about the Ottoman and Mughal empires. So, our lesson question is: how did religious tolerance affect the success of the Ottoman and Mughal empires? So, that brings us on to these lesson objectives: to explore the diverse peoples the Ottoman and Mughal empires ruled over, to describe the achievements of the Ottoman and Mughal empires, and to understand how religious tolerance made the empires strong. So let's start with vocabulary. A Ghazi is a Muslim warrior. Janissaries are enslaved people who served the Ottoman Empire. Sikhism is a monotheistic religion started in India that concentrates on doing good works rather than performing rituals. And a sultan is a Muslim ruler. Now, by the year 1200 CE, the empires of the Middle East were in decline. The Byzantine Empire was only a fraction of its former size, and the Islamic Caliphate was trying to fight off Mongol invaders. But that led to the rise of a new Islamic power, the Ottoman Empire. So the Ottoman Empire began in Anatolia. Anatolia is modern-day Turkey. It was founded by Ghazis. Now remember, those were those Muslim warriors, and you can see a picture of Ghazis right there. Now Ghazi Osman began to conquer neighboring lands, and the Ottomans were able to do this using advanced military technology. This is a picture of Sultan Osman I. Now the Ottoman Empire had a complex and efficient system of government. The Sultan was the supreme political and military leader. But non-Muslims were given freedom of worship. And now that kind of brings us back to that religious tolerance question. But enslaved people were able to hold positions in government and were used as janissaries. Remember, that was servants to the Ottoman people, or as soldiers. Now another Ottoman ruler was Mehmed II. He rose to power when he was only 12 years old when his father abdicated or stepped down from the throne. So he was known as the boy sultan. And he was one of the most powerful sultans of the Ottoman Empire. And because he conquered the Byzantine city of Constantinople and renamed it Istanbul, he was named Mehmed the Conqueror. Now, the city of Istanbul, that used to be Constantinople, that before that was Byzantium, went under a number of changes under Mehmed. First of all, he changed the name to Istanbul, which is actually still called Istanbul today. He made it the new capital of the Ottoman Empire. He turned the Hagia Sophia, remember that church that Justinian built? He turned that into a mosque. But he did still tolerate religious diversity. Now, Ottoman sultans, two of the important ones were Bayezid II and Selim I. Now, Bayezid was known for public works. He built universities, hospitals, and mosques. Those are basically things to improve public life, to improve the life of the average citizen. He also welcomed Jews and Muslims who were expelled during the Spanish Inquisition. Now, the Spanish Inquisition, we'll learn more about that in a later lesson, but basically it was a really bad time for anybody who wasn't a Christian in Spain. Now, Selim, on the other hand, he expanded the Ottoman Empire to include Egypt, Syria, and Palestine, and he was given the keys to Mecca to symbolize his leadership of the Islamic world. Remember, Mecca is the most important city in Islam. It's where Muslims will go on their pilgrimage, called the Hajj. Now you can see here, this was the original extent of the Ottoman Empire, but then it expanded. There's Syria, and it encapsulated the Red Sea, and then over here into North Africa, into Algeria. And you can see that the empire continued to grow. Which leads us to the Ottoman ruler Suleiman. Now Suleiman, he was known as Suleiman the Magnificent and Suleiman the Lawgiver. Now he oversaw great advances in art and architecture, and he even created a code of law. And he was able to expand Ottoman Empire into Eastern Europe. So if we look back here, he expanded up into the Balkans and into Hungary. He was also able to, because of the Silk Road, have a lot of trade through the Ottoman Empire. So the Ottoman Empire controlled most of the Eastern Mediterranean trade. They had overland routes through the Balkans, sea trade routes through the Red Sea and Black Sea, and a network of roads. And there was caravanserais, which were basically like travel inns that protected traders and merchants. They were spaced out about a day's walk on the road so that people could rest and be safe from bandits and raiders and stuff. Now, part of this Silk Road, there were goods from Europe, things like gold and silver coins, wool, clothing, wine. There were Ottoman goods, carpets, glassware, jewels, and then from far in the east in Asia, goods like spices, porcelain, silk, perfumes, and bronze. Now, we're going to shift a little bit over to the east a little bit more because of those trade routes and because of the Silk Road that it was able to have Muslim influence go even farther east. And that started the Mughal empires. So ruling from 1526 to 1530, Babur became the first Mughal emperor. He was a descendant of Genghis Khan, and he was a strategic military general. But going along with the idea of religious tolerance, he respected the religion and beliefs of the people that he conquered. And so this shows the Mughal Empire. You can see here how it is on the Indian subcontinent in Asia. Now, under the Mughal Empire, there was a lot of cultural blending because there were three major religions in the region. The first was Islam, and that was a monotheistic religion, meaning they believe in one God, and that was the primary religion of the Mughal rulers. Sikhism was another monotheistic religion, and that was primarily in Western India, and that focused on doing good deeds. Hinduism was a polytheistic religion. That means they worshipped many gods. And that was common in India and Eastern Asia, and that focused on rituals. There was another Mughal ruler named Akbar. He greatly expanded the Mughal Empire, and he ruled during a period of stability and unity. He was another one who promoted religious tolerance, and he welcomed the influence of a variety of cultures. And that influence from other cultures and religious tolerance, you can see that those kind of things are making these empires strong because it makes the people that they're governing happy. So under Akbar's Mughal Empire, Hindus and Sikhs were placed in positions of high authority. They ended taxes that non-Muslims had to pay. He didn't enforce non-Muslims to obey Islamic law. He united Sikhs, Hindus, and Muslims under one culture. But not everything was roses here. Future leaders would end up reversing Akbar's policies. One of the greatest achievements of the Mughal Empire is the construction of the Taj Mahal. It was constructed during the reign of Shah Jahan, and he was actually Akbar's grandson. And he built it to house the tomb of his wife who died during childbirth. The Taj Mahal is basically a perfect example of Mughal architecture. Now, the decline of the Mughal Empire started with Emperor Aurangzeb. He was intolerant of non-Muslims, which means he placed heavy taxes on non-Muslims. He destroyed Hindu schools and temples. He even arrested and executed Sikh religious leaders. He oversaw an empire with a struggling economy. One of the reasons is because he imposed such high taxes that it caused most of the empire to live in poverty. And he also dealt with European influence and pressure from European colonization. And eventually, those factors would lead to the end or the decline of the Mughal Empire. Now let's look at the timeline. So we can see here we had the Mongol invasion of Baghdad, which kind of ended Islam's golden age. But that led way to the rise of the Ottoman Empire. And we can see here we have Mehmed's conquest of Constantinople. That's when the Ottomans were really gaining steam, and they were able to conquer Constantinople, make it Istanbul, and then made it the capital of the Ottoman Empire. And then you can see here how the Mughal Empire rose and fell within the same time period of the Ottoman Empire. So the Ottoman Empire started before the Mughal Empire and ended after it. So you can see the Ottoman Empire lasted for a very long time.